starts right here, baby.
Who work as hard as us? Nobody.
Good morning, everyone. It's been 177 days since the Chiefs have been in pads. They are in pads today, and we are live. Mitch Holthus with you, the voice of the Chiefs, along with Kansas City Chiefs reporter Matt McMullen. And yes, this is a red-letter day on the calendar every year in the National Football League, the first day in pads.
Well, this is when the real football starts, right? We've been talking about this for months since Super Bowl 55. The guys haven't been in pads. They've been working toward this moment. Installs, workouts, going to the training room, the classroom, things like that, all working to this moment right here, building a base of knowledge. And now you can put it all to the test out here in pads. The real football starts today, which is a very good thing.
And that opens up some other drills. We're going to show you one-on-ones, OL versus DL. I tell you, it's the most important drill to watch anytime you come to camp. But we have seen players rise. In shorts, they test well. They've got great skill. The pads go on, and they decrease. Conversely, we have seen players go just the other way. Maybe not the fastest guy. Maybe they don't test as great. But when the pads go on, they elevate their game.
Well, in shorts, you and I can probably go out there, right? But when the pads come on, the real ball players come out. And that's exactly what Orlando Brown Jr. said last week. He said when the pads come on, the real ball players come out. And that's what you see with guys like this. Guys elevate their level of play. And who's going to shine in the pads? We see that every single offseason, every single training camp. Who goes out there and plays well in pads? Because certain players may be really good in shorts, but don't quite have what it takes in pads, and vice versa. Some guys don't look as great in shorts, but really excel in pads. The real ball players come out, and I'm so excited to see who shines here today and over the next 4 days, because 4 straight days in pads starting today.
And since it's the first day in pads, we've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to talk about maybe the Chiefs' newest secret weapon. We'll get to that in a second. You had a chance to talk to a Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback, which is an interesting discussion because we deal with not only the global view of the Chiefs, but the league and then what this day means. But we've got a lot of good things planned. Plus, we will dig deep into the weeds of the tight ends and the running backs.
Should be a lot of fun. You alluded to that interview. We're just down there for media yesterday. We see Kurt Warner walking around. If you see Kurt Warner here for NFL Network, got to talk to him. Asked him some great questions just about his perception of this team, how Patrick Mahomes can keep progressing as a player. Tight end sets, multiple tight end sets, something that we'll talk about later in our show today. And also just being an underdog, because that's what camp is all about, right? It's the underdog stories, and gets back to my point about the pads. The pads come on, and the underdogs can show what they can do in this league. Kurt Warner's a great example of that. You'll hear that later on.
Yep, the NFL's version of the movie Dodgeball, the underdog story. We've had great crowds here. Saturday, even in the rain, when we were live, there was over 5,000 in attendance here. There was another great crowd yesterday, over 3,000 in attendance. We're expecting another big crowd today with this incredible weather. And we're going to strongly suggest, Matt, I know you're with me on this, a chance to come to camp. But it's different this year. Like, think about coming to a game. You have to go online to register and get a ticket for your phone. So basically, you're going to get a QR code, you get scanned, and that's the way you get in. But you can go to Chiefs.com/tickets/training camp. Chiefs.com/tickets/training camp. But we get stories, you and I both, of people that come here as far away as Pennsylvania, South America, I kid you not. But this becomes a family vacation, and what a great setup for families. We already see a bunch out here this morning.
It's just the best. I mean, we talked about it during our last show. I used to come up here as a kid with my parents and with my friends as I got older, and it's just the best part of, our summer. You just come up here and watch the Kansas City Chiefs practice. Didn't have a chance to do this last year. Of course, training camp was back at the team facility. It just wasn't the same, and the players have mentioned that they feel the energy when the crowd is out here. Tyreek Hill a few days ago mentioned that when he hears the crowd cheering him when he scores a touchdown, gives him juice for 10 more plays. So you guys are helping these guys out there get better, get ready for the season. And plus, it's just a lot of fun. The new berm out there behind us, that wasn't there in the past. Feels like a stadium in here. It's so much fun. You will not regret it if you come up here.
Those that have been here before have said, or here already this year's camp, have said it seems louder. And I said, well, that berm kind of keeps the sound in here. So it's that stadium arrowhead effect in a mini sort of way. But we're also going to get into the tight ends. And the tight end now has become a big part of the discussion around the National Football League. Kind of started with Tony Gonzalez, the Chiefs Pro Football Hall of Famer back in the late 90s. But it's gone to another level, and especially with a guy like Travis Kelsey. But overall, the role of the tight end in this offense, I think, is even with Kelsey being better than any other player in the league at that position, maybe ever. With this team, it's still understated what that position means to Andy Reid's offense.
I think you made a great point mentioning Tony Gonzalez, because he did change the game for tight ends in the early 2000s. Changes the game. Tight ends, the position nowadays is the way it is because of Tony Gonzalez. And now Travis Kelsey is continuing to do that. And we'll talk more about this later. I have a whole list of stats because I can't help myself talking about Travis Kelsey. But the guy is truly not just the best tight end in the game right now, maybe on track to be the best of all time. He's also just one of the best pass catchers in the league. We have to compare him to a wide receiver because the guy is a monster. He's more than a tight end. He's truly changing the game from, a tight end who's also a good pass catcher to being just truly a wide receiver in a tight end's body. The guy's incredible. And
without giving away government secrets, we talked about Jaron Reed on defense. If you go back and watch our show live on Saturday, he's the beacon. Like, you set your tone to that Jaron Reed, and then the rest of the defense kind of goes off him. And honestly, in many ways, the tight end for Andy Reid's offense, because where they move around now, but that becomes in many ways the beacon where the rest of the offense kind of scatters off of that.
See that bumblebee flying around?
Yeah.
He's trying to be a fan here, trying to watch practice.
Yeah, it'd be nice. So we had rain on Saturday. We've got the attack of the bumblebees here on Monday, but we'll try to take care of it. But again, a great show planned for you throughout the next hour or so. I've already talked to your boss. You have permission to watch the next hour. Just put a little work at the end of the day and don't just blow off the whole day. But again, a lot of people have reacted to this. They feel like they're in camp with it, and that's the way we want them to feel.
Yeah, that's how we want it to be. We wish all of you could be up here with us, watching camp with us as practice goes on. But if you can't make it up here, of course it is a work day, then check it out on your iPad, on your phone, on your computer, wherever you are watching. And we'll be bringing you live looks throughout this practice. And if these people are anything like us, Mitch, just watching practice just gets them excited for the season. Of course, Super Bowl 55 did not end the way that we hoped, but we know this is the best team in football. We know what they're capable of. This team knows that too. And just watching them practice out here, you can feel that energy and that desire to get back to the Super Bowl. And I'm excited. I know we're in August right now, but just seeing this team compete and how good they look already, I'm just pumped for the season.
We have seen some secret weapons already in this camp, and we saw it during the summer with the OTAs that you and I were watching. But one of my thesis points have been, since Super Bowl 55, this team has got to get some help for Travis Kelsey. There's got to be some production at the tight end position other than Kelsey, who's been the best ever in the league. One guy that has flashed, and they want to say, well, wait till he gets in pads. What do we have? That's what today's about, and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But Noah Gray, the rookie draft pick out of Duke, has flashed, and he has flashed almost on a daily basis. I had a chance to talk to Noah Gray earlier in camp about his role, even as a rookie, in making a splash. Okay, now you're into this almost a couple of weeks, but a lot of routes in this offense and a lot is asked of you. Where are you at so far?
Just still learning, still got a lot to do. Just coming out here and practicing, learn from the older guys, getting on the same page with the quarterbacks. That's just important. I think we all need to do that. And so just coming out here and just continuing to practice, that's important.
Coach and I talk about the volume of this offense. I mean, it's vast. How do you process that to realize and try to execute that on every play, depending on formation, scheme, and how the defense lines up?
Yeah, you just expected to study every night and do your due diligence and kind of the playbook. And, I see that with a lot of the other guys out here too. So, there is a lot asked of you, especially during camp, but hitting the playbook and studying, making sure you're coming out to practice and knowing what you do is important. And a lot of the other guys, especially the older guys, have been helping me out with that.
The exciting thing is to see, and we've seen it with Kels, but even with Bell too, you're asked to run every route on the tree. Okay, and you've shown you can do that. You're running 9s and 7s and 8s, there's deep routes. What about you personally being able to run every route on the tree and what that does to helpfully set up your career?
It's just a day-by-day process, just learning from the other guys, and not only just the tight ends, but the receivers as well, because like you said, there are a lot of routes that the tight ends are asked to run that the outside receivers run as well. So, just watching everybody, and like I said earlier, getting back with the quarterbacks and just kind of understanding what they want and what they need, that's really important. And just huge credit to all the other guys for helping me. It's been a big learning process from now since back when OTAs were starting. So just really getting with the other guys to help me kind of understand and run those routes has been really key to me.
And what are you learning about playing every day with Patrick and what that means and how you have to be on your toes?
Yeah, you just need to to really get into the playbook. There's a lot of intricacies in the offense that you just need to know. So just being kind of able to have him as a mentor, learn from him, and kind of go out here and execute what I need to execute, and kind of learning on the fly. That's been something that's really new to me, but I've been enjoying it, and he's been an absolutely great mentor to me.
And then there's the play, but we all know, and how much has Kelsey told you about the play after the play? It almost turns into 3-on-3 basketball with him.
Yeah, I mean, you are asked, and you see it a lot of time in practice where, plays break down, the quarterback will escape the pocket, and you're expected to kind of know where you need to be on the field and kind of put yourself in the right position to be successful there. I've been watching the Chiefs play for the past 3 or 4 years, and a lot of the touchdowns, are scored on scramble drills and stuff like that. So being able to understand where you need to be if kind of things go, kind of go south, is really important. A lot of the other guys understand that as well.
Okay, final question. Pads. The pads come on. And you guys are asked to do everything at tight end. What about the pads coming on?
It's just football. I'm going to go out there and execute like I have been. I know the other guys are excited for it as well. And, we're just going to take what we've been learning fundamentally out when we don't have pads. And we're just going to transition to practicing good with pads on. So we're excited. I know a lot of the other guys are excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Really interesting. This is a Massachusetts kid. So you think about the sausage, you think about Gronk, right? You think about those tough New England guys. He went to Duke, you can tell. But this is a very skilled player, and one that we were wondering in the OTAs, what do the Chiefs have here? Can he help Kelsey? The answer has been yes. Now the next step is today. In pads, how can he handle being in pads?
Now, coming into today, 2 things really impressed me about him. First, his versatility. So versatility is a cornerstone of this offense and this defense in a lot of ways, but you want guys that can do different things for you, particularly at positions like tight end. And think about what he did at Duke, lined up in the slot. 237 snaps just last season in the slot. Can also line up in line as a blocker and in the backfield. So he can fill that Anthony Sherman role in a sense if you want him to. So this kid can do a lot of different things. But also what excites me is the rapport that he developed with Patrick Mahomes during OTAs. We were watching those practices, and sure, they're just in shorts running around. It's a passing camp. But when you develop a rapport and a chemistry with your quarterback in moments like that, that's when it's December and Patrick Mahomes is looking for a receiver or a tight end or whatever during a broken play. He remembers those moments in June. He remembers that chemistry, and he can trust you. And that was developed in OTAs. We've seen it develop over the course of the first week of camp as well. But now, like you said, the next step is pads are on. You keep developing that chemistry with pads and flashing with pads on. I like his chances.
Yeah, you go back to the pre-draft analysis of Noah Gray at Duke. Lance Zierlein, I appreciate Lance. Pride of Lenora, Kansas. Know the family.
Didn't know that.
But great slot blocker was one of the reactions to him. So if you're not only catching passes out of the slot, you have to block out of the slot. Think of a 3-wide look, but with tight ends. Then also his ability to get sharp angles out of turns, and we have seen that. Now, it's also a reason why you want to watch the preseason games. And our preseason coverage, of course, is back in 2021. Your chance to see this Chiefs team, guys like Noah Gray and others that we're going to talk about over our live streams here, and you get to be on the sideline. What a great crew. Ari Wolf, Trent Green. And it'll be San Francisco will be the first game on August the 14th. Check your local listings throughout the Chiefs Kingdom for the station that'll be carrying those preseason games. But it's almost like watching a 3-hour version of these live streams. As much as the down and distance and score, it's more important to see the reaction and how these guys do. But Noah Gray, again, is another guy that I think becomes today, other than Trey Smith, probably the most looked guy among inside the fort.
You're so right about the preseason. I understand the preseason isn't the regular season, not as exciting, but it's important for guys trying to make this team and young players trying to figure out their role in the NFL. We lost that last year. We didn't have that. Think about around the league, a lot of young players didn't have a chance to fully get immersed in their offensive or defensive schemes because they couldn't go out there and play. And this year, once again, I understand the preseason isn't like the regular season, but for these young guys and for players trying to make this team, it's very, very important and so fortunate that we have that again this year. Now, to your point about Gray, you mentioned the routes and what he could do on shortcuts. He was an underneath monster at Duke for the Blue Devils throughout his career. Only 3 drops on 107 catchable targets. And you think about how defenses, we'll get into this later as well, how defenses want to guard the Chiefs. It's against the deep pass. It's 2 deep safeties. But if you have Noah Gray running underneath 5-10 yards every single time, it's automatic. And all of a sudden your safeties have to cheat up. And then what's that do? That opens up the deep ball for Tyreek Hill and McCall Hardman. So Noah Gray, if he can progress in this offense like we think he can, could be a lot of fun.
I think it opens up Coach's early playbook of 2023. 2013, 14, 15. They used 3 tight ends to beat Miami. In 2014, it was really the first kind of coming out party of Travis Kelsey. But when you have tight ends that can run routes, you can go big, as they say in football, forcing the defense to go big, but then forcing bigs to cover athletic tight ends like Noah Gray and most notably Travis Kelsey. All right, let's get into Travis Kelsey. We could spend an entire live stream on Kels. When you look at it statistically, and there's a lot of discussion about tight ends, who's the best, and Gronk, and even T-Guns, and now Darren Waller comes into play. But honestly, empirically, if you look at it just on empirical data, Travis Kelsey has no equal in this league. 5 years, unsurpassed in NFL history.
Are you ready for the stats?
Here we go. Matt Stat, the man.
I can't help
Human
myself.
flash drive.
Okay, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Only tight end in NFL history to do that. For context, no tight end in NFL history has 5,000-yard seasons. He did them all in a row. Crazy. 1,416 receiving yards last year, most in a single season by a tight end in NFL history. 105 catches last year, broke his own franchise record here with the Chiefs. Also the only tight end in NFL history with multiple 100-catch seasons. From Week 8 through the Super Bowl last year, he had at least 8 catches and 60 receiving yards every single week. That included 8 100-yard games. Since 2018, he has the 2nd most receiving yards and the 4th most catches of any player in the NFL. Gets back to my point about how he's more than just a tight end. He is also a wide receiver in a tight end's body. Only player to tally 80 catches and 1,000 yards in every season since 2016. Think about that. And lastly, how many players, Mitch, have tallied 90 catches and 1,000 yards in every season since 2018?
We're ready to go to the NFL's version of the Supreme Court to try this case. You know, the people versus Kelsey, and I mean, we're going to win this case. The other thing is I compare us. Darren Waller's really good. Yeah. In the division, we know he's really good. I love Kittle in San Francisco, great player. Kelsey's different. Just hear the numbers out, because if people talk about Waller's year last year, Kelsey had 200 more yards than Darren Waller with 1 less target and 2 less catches. The other factoid here is, and this is a next-gen stat, 1/3 of the time Travis Kelsey lined up in the what's called the ISO Y position, meaning he split, like a split end. In football terminology, the X for a wide receiver. Well, he's kind of this XY. 1/3 of the time. The next closest was 16%. What does that mean? It opens up the field for others like Tyreek Hill, but he's matched up and beating elite corners in this league. We saw what he did against Tre'Davious White. We saw what he did against the elite corners of Cleveland in the playoffs, and we've seen it against the division opponents. He is a rare bird, and he can run every route on the tree and beat elite corners one-on-one.
That's the thing, is teams decide, oh, we're going to outsmart the Chiefs and put Tre'Davious White or Denzel Ward on Travis Kelsey. What's he do? First of all, think of the respect involved there. Tyreek Hill is on this team, and you're going to put your best corner on Travis Kelsey on a tight end, and he beats them consistently. And if you go back and look, there was a tremendous play, I think it was a touchdown against the Browns, where Travis cut left, cut back right toward the post.
The pivot route against Ward.
Against Ward, and Ward is a tremendous corner. No disrespect to him, but he falls down. And that's just how good Travis Kelsey is. It's an art form, how he finds the holes in zone defense as well. And we saw that against the Bills time and time again. The play breaks down. What's Patrick Mahomes do? He finds Travis Kelsey, because Travis Kelsey always finds a soft spot in zone every single time.
He is a gigantic part of the genius that is Andy Reid in how Kelsey not only affects the game himself, he helps affect the game for others. Now, the concern here is, and I've been spewing this stat out since the end of Super Bowl 55, because I went back and looked at those 3 remarkable years. 3,381 snaps.
Yeah.
If you look at this team, everybody's missed some time over that 3-year span. Tyreek missed, Patrick has missed, Kelsey has not. The only 2 games he has sat out over the last several years are the 2 games where the Chiefs didn't play their starters in Week 17. He has been a warhorse for this team. So that segues in now to what we talked about Noah Gray, and I'll get to Blake Bell in a second, but he's got to have some help. 1, maybe to spell him some, but 2, also the multiple tight end sets that can become a bigger weapon in 2021 than they've been in 6 years in this offense.
The reality is no player is Travis Kelsey. He's truly a unique breed in this league and in NFL history. So we're not saying we're expecting Noah Gray to be Travis Kelsey, but he has similar skills. And if you can have Travis Kelsey come out a play or 2 and put Noah Gray in there and still count on him to produce, and the defense has to respect him, that's huge. And Travis missed a few days of practice late last week. The good news is he's back out there making plays, but he missed a few days, and that meant reps for Noah Gray with the ones in that Travis Kelsey role. And you think about finding silver linings with injuries, maybe that was a good thing for a couple days for Noah Gray to get that experience. And now we're glad Travis Kelsey is back, and both of them could be on the field at the same time. And you mentioned multiple tight end sets. The Chiefs ran two tight end sets 10% less last year than they did in 2019. And just because if you don't necessarily have the players to do it, you can't do it. Well, with Noah Gray, Travis Kelsey, and now Blake Bell, who we'll talk about here in a moment, the defense has to respect the fact that all those guys can catch passes and all those guys can be weapons in this offense. And you have to make decisions. Do you put corners on those players? Do you put safeties, linebackers? What do you do? It really creates mismatches defensively. You talked to Kurt Warner about it as well, and it puts a lot of pressure on the defense. A very exciting thought.
Okay, another to dovetail on that point, it's an excellent point, Matt, is the fact that what we've seen now for reaction to the Chiefs offense, really since Super Bowl 54 and the Wasp, right, is that his safeties are setting back. Dana and I talked about on a radio broadcast. The safeties start at 20 or 25 yards and backpedal to 30 yards. They would go off the screen because they're so worried about getting beat deep, right, by the speed of the outside receivers of the Chiefs. Well, that opens up a whole pasture of 40 acres in there seemingly for those underneath routes. Well, one countermeasure to those safeties setting back there is multiple tight end sets. If you do that and those safeties stay back, you still have Tyreek Hill on the field, right? You have to respect him. You will crush them in the run game. There's just not enough. With this offensive line, it changes everything. So it's a great countermeasure to the countermeasure that we've seen Chiefs opponents do to Patrick Mahomes, especially in the 2020 season. All right, now you all have a USB port, right? In way, shape, or form, you got them all over the place. This guy, plug him in to your USB port. You can fit him in there. His head's just got this perfect, because he is the human flash drive. Not only that, but your headquarters for everything Chiefs. And I'm talking 24 hours. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're going, I wonder what's going on. Go to the Chiefs app and find it. You can go to Chiefs.com, check out weekly, daily photo galleries, all of our 65 TPT video content. The franchise is back. It's so exciting for Chiefs fans. And we'll get a little taste of that, too, coming up later in the show. Articles from the flash drive, Matt McMullen, and so much more. It's award-winning. We take a lot of pride in it. We bust our tail every day. But it's to keep you up-to-date, Chiefs Kingdom, no matter where you are in the vast and growing kingdom, to keep up-to-date with your team. Okay. Let's go into the rest of the tight ends. Blake Bell is back, the Belldozer, who was famous in high school at Wichita Bishop Carroll High School as one of the top athletes in Wichita high school history. Remember, his dad was in the National Football League. His uncle was a great player for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then he had a great career for the University of Oklahoma. In the National Football League, his best moments were in 2019 with the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Blake Bell being back is bigger than I think people think, because he seems to be a complement to Kelsey and potentially Noah Gray.
He really does. And I understand if you look at the box score, you don't see giant numbers from Blake Bell, but he can play in this league. He can do a lot for you. First of all, you look at what he did for Dallas last year. According to Pro Football Focus, he was the top pass blocking tight end in all of football. So that factors into that multiple tight end set deal there, where you can have multiple tight ends on the field, throw the football. Blake Bell doesn't have to be running a route. He can be blocking, and he's really, really good at it. He's a very big man. But he can also catch the football. We've seen that. So last year for Dallas, 11 grabs for 110 yards and a touchdown. But think about the big plays he made in 2019 for the Chiefs. 30-yard catch versus Denver. 8-yard touchdown versus Houston in the playoffs. He can catch the football, and he can be trusted on this team. So he can be a great complement to Travis Kelsey and Noah Gray. The beauty of these three guys is they all have different skill sets. They can all do things differently, different body types. And that's huge if you're trying to confuse the defense, which I'm sure this group will do.
They also have to block in space, and that goes back to your point about Blake Bell. The other thing about Travis Kelsey, Blake Bell, and Noah Gray, all three were high school quarterbacks. You have tight ends who were high school quarterbacks. Well, what does that mean? That means they understand route concepts. It understands that they know how to get out of breaks and what the quarterback is thinking. And now Blake Bell, who's played with Patrick Mahomes, and Kelsey, who's lived with Patrick Mahomes, and Gray, who's learning to play with Patrick Mahomes, it goes back to the interview I just had with Noah and the fact that it's the play within a play, but you got to understand it's shirts and skins many times. Some of the bigger plays become from scramble plays. All three of the tight ends that we've mentioned so far are athletic enough and smart enough to make those plays.
We think about Noah Gray in the offseason during OTAs. Patrick Mahomes said that he had kind of a veteran mindset. He had a skill set where if the play broke down, he knew where to be and how to get on the quarterback's timing. All three of those guys have that because of exactly what you're saying. They understand how a quarterback thinks. And that's a really innate, difficult skill to master, where especially Noah Gray, a rookie in this league, he knows what Patrick Mahomes is thinking when the play breaks down. He doesn't just run his route. He knows, okay, the play is dead. Where should I go? How can I make a play for my quarterback? All three of these guys can do that. And those are the biggest plays you really see from this offense, is when the play breaks down. Both the receivers and the tight ends on this team know what to do, and Travis Kelsey does it better than anybody, and seeing it from guys like Blake Bell, we're seeing it out here in practice, and Noah Gray, it's very exciting to think where this offense can go this season, because every year it's like, how much better can they really get, and they find a way.
I think it's the biggest addition to 2021 is this position group and how it's improved since Super Bowl 55. We talked about families coming, and again, Chiefs.com/tickets/training camp. You can sign up for your tickets. You're going to get it on you got a mobile app. You come in and get QR code, you're in. And watching like all of these thousands of fans out here today. But I love it when families are here and the spouse will hit the other spouse and go, hey, who's 88? Who is 88? And it's the little kid that knows going, Dad, Mom, that's Jody Fordson. You don't know who Jody Fordson is? Maybe you don't know who Jody Fordson is, but let's tell you about Jody Fordson, number 88, because he's been at wide receiver for his career. He's kind of flip-flop back and forth, but 6'6", 230 out of Valdosta State. He is now in his, third year in the system, basically. But Jody Fordson has caught the eye of many at training camp in the past going, who's 88? This guy's very interesting because, again, he fits the description of we talked about the other three. Athletic, a target, and he's already made plays in this camp.
So in our last live stream, we talked about defensive lineman, and Joshua Kendo was the guy we talked about. And I said that you can't teach athleticism in size. And that's what Jody Fordson has. You mentioned 6'6", 230, athletic freak. And he's had a really, really nice camp. Every single day we've seen him make a play. And it gets back to what Eric Bieniemy said yesterday, actually, in the context of Jody. And there's some really good tight ends on this team, but he's telling Jody and all the young players on this team, up at the indoor, there's an imaginary sign that says hiring all positions. And they're telling guys that when they put a helmet on, when they put the pads on today and this uniform on, you're interviewing for a job. And it doesn't matter if you went to the biggest school or if you went to Valdosta State. You have a chance to make this team. And he's showing every single day that he's trying to make this team. And you're right, he's been in the system for a while now. He's had a chance to learn the offense, learn the scheme. Moving to tight end, he can show off his athletic skills. And this is his opportunity. Can you make this team? And the preseason is a time I'm really excited to see what Jody can do.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's been in the practice squad the last 2 years. He's been, again, since he was signed originally on May 13th, 2019. So that tells you how long Jody Fordson has been in the system. But when I hear defensive players and defensive coaches talk about him, because he's been scout team guy, okay, over the last 2 years. That means during the season on the practice squad to get ready, the dress rehearsal for the game on Sunday or Monday or Thursday, as it were, the scout team has got to be very prepared. A guy who has tormented the defense during the scout team times during practice has been Jody Fordson. I mean, you ask the defensive guys out here, they all know who he is.
He has skills and he has moves. And once again, you can't teach his size and his athleticism. And that's what you do with a player like this, is you keep him around for a while. Let him learn the offense, get comfortable in the offense and the system, get comfortable with the coaches, and see what you have in him. And that's why, once again, I'm so excited for this preseason for Jody, because he's an awesome guy. We love the guy. He's so awesome. And he has these skills. Now, can you translate it to the football field during the regular season? And the preseason is this time to show that I can play in this league and I belong. So far in shorts, he's made a lot of plays. Today's the first day in pads. Can you keep that going?
All right. And the other two tight ends, Nick Kaiser, all 16 games last year. He's on the non-football injured list right now, so he's not been out here in camp. Had the 22-yard catch against Denver, fumbled. Don't need that. And then Evan Bayless, who's been around. I mean, he's played 11 games in the league. He's been with 6 teams since 2017. But as a rule, or as a group, as a room, it's pretty good. And we go back to the final thing and talk about Fordson is the fact that he has to be ready. Those 3 tight ends we mentioned earlier, probably the prohibitive favorites to be the 3 tight ends, but you need Fordson ready to go in case one of those 3 go down.
Yeah, have to be ready. And you mentioned Kaiser. Don't forget special teams, a very big contributor on special teams. 5th most special team snaps in the team last year. Of course, he contributed in that way, and that's very important. And then Evan Bayless, I just wanted to touch on what you mentioned with being with all those different teams. Not a lot of regular season appearances, but there's something to be said for having experience with different organizations, right? Being around coaches and in different practices. So that experience is valuable. That's why he's out here.
Yep. He's also played for opponents coming up on the 2021 schedule. That helps out. Here's the key. Why do you watch these these live streams, you're the mom and dad. You don't want your 10-year-old to go, come on, Mom and Dad, ADH Jody Fordson. You don't want that. You want to know it yourself. All right. The other thing you want to know is just how good this organization has been. We talked about the franchise and how proud we are of that award-winning feature that we put out. I mean, basically you feel like the NFL Hard Knocks. You get
even better.
It's way better. You get inside your favorite team. We have a chance to give you just a bit of that first episode of the franchise. And Clark Hunt speaking to the team before all of this started a couple weeks ago.
Hey, guys. It's great to be here tonight. How exciting to be back in Missouri Western after a year away. So excited to get the 2021 season underway, started here with training camp. It's a pleasure for me to always get a chance to visit with you guys a little bit. I know we have a bunch of new people in the room. I think of the players, we have about 36 new players, and I know we've got some new staff. If you're new to the organization, I want to welcome you. We're thrilled to have you part of our extended family. The Chiefs have been in our family for 62 years. My dad founded the team back in the late 1950s.
We're just very, very happy.
My dad, who was truly a visionary, ended up helping create the Super Bowl. He gave the name to the Super Bowl. And of course, the last several years have been really special as we've gotten to compete to win a Super Bowl, including getting it done a couple of years ago.
Kansas City, we did it, baby!
Obviously, the thrill of winning the Super Bowl 50 years after we claimed our first one 2 years ago was special. Last year, what you guys accomplished during the regular season was special, winning 14 games. I told you when I spoke to you last year that your biggest challenge last year was going to be avoiding the distractions because the COVID pandemic brought a ton of distractions. Well, there are going to be distractions this year. You know, we're not past the pandemic, and there are always going to be distractions tugging at you. So focus on the goal at hand. We want to win another Lamar Hunt trophy, and we want to get back to the Super Bowl. I know we're all disappointed about how last season ended. Let's use it as motivation to be our best on a daily basis, because there are 31 other teams that are trying to do that. Those teams are going to focus on you, and it's going to start with our opening game against Cleveland. They're going to come out here and want to beat us. So we've got to be at our best. And the way you do that is you listen to Andy and his staff and work hard every day. I hope you have a great camp. Go Chiefs. Let's get it done.
Another great family activity. Pop some popcorn. Kids, get around the monitor. We're going to watch the franchise. It is fantastic. I know it's a favorite show of my wife, Tammy Holthus, and your mom, Bonnie McMullen, and your wife, Ellie. But it's a must-watch. It's fantastic. And the production excellence cannot be overlooked.
It's incredible stuff. It's an incredible behind-the-scenes look at what's going on with this team that you can't find anywhere else. And our guys that work on that work so hard. I mean, sleepless nights trying to put that together for you all, and it's tremendous, tremendous access that people just don't get around this league, seeing what this team is doing behind closed doors. Awesome stuff. And it just fires me up. The whole intro, the cold open of the episode, for those that have watched it, fires me up. I'm ready to go, and I know this team feels the same way.
Must watch. We talked about Travis Kelsey. When you pair him with Tyreek Hill, the last 4 years, it has been unsurpassed in NFL history by any duo over the past 4 years in the production of those two. Now, think about that stat, because it leads me into your interview, because the numbers being put up now are a bit of a renaissance, because 20 years ago, there was a team that was doing it, and even with his team in Arizona, he was doing it. But great perspective here from an interview you had earlier.
Yeah, in St. Louis, it was the greatest show on turf back at the turn of the millennium. And yesterday, we were sitting down in media. We didn't know who we were going to interview for the segment here today. And we saw a guy named Kurt Warner walking around. And our boss was like, "You want to talk to Kurt Warner?" It's like, yeah. Any chance you get to talk to a Pro Football Hall of Famer, you want to. He's an amazing guy. I talked to him last year for one of our game preview segments. He's an awesome dude and really a wealth of football knowledge. And he, like you said, he knows what's going on with this Chiefs team, because the Chiefs are changing the game offensively. They changed the game offensively in St. Louis back then, and I asked him just about that in our interview with him. time talking about Kurt Warner. He's out here for NFL Network today, so we got to interview him while you're here. And Kurt, in the early 2000s, we saw the greatest show on turf, and you and those wide receivers in St. Louis really changed the game offensively. Well, we're kind of seeing that the last several years with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Are there any similarities to how the Chiefs are kind of changing the offensive game in the last few years in your mind?
I think there's a lot of similarities, and the biggest thing is I think the nature by which they attack a defense. You know, at that time when we kind of came on the scene, it was so much about run the football, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You can't win throwing first, and we changed that complexion. But what we did was we always threatened the defense. On every single play, you worried about whether we were going to the house. And even though this league has changed and everybody's throwing the ball all over, that to me is what's different about this Chiefs team. Is you take a breath, you hesitate for a moment, it's game over, and the complexion of the game can change so quickly, as you guys have seen a number of times. I mean, think back to the playoffs a couple years ago, down 24 points, and before you know it, they win by 20. And so that, to me, is where they've changed the game, is that it's a constant threat to the defense, and they've got their defense always playing on their heels, which does nothing but benefit an offense.
Now, always trying to find ways to get better, of course, and we know Travis Kelsey is the best tight end in the game right now, but some offseason additions, bringing Blake Bell back in the tight end room, also Noah Gray out of Duke, 5th-round pick, joining this tight end room. He has some moves as well. What can having multiple tight end sets and athletes at the tight end position, multiple tight ends on the field at once, how can that help a quarterback and challenge the defense?
I've always felt that if you have a good tight end that is versatile or a good back that is versatile, those are the biggest mismatches you have on the field. You can have great wide receivers and obviously get mismatches there, but you know usually the defense's best players, best athletes are out there as well. When you get guys on the inside that can make plays, that is a difference maker, and you guys have seen that with Travis Kelsey. But you get another guy. I mean, I think of the New England Patriots. For the longest time, they didn't necessarily have these big weapons on the outside, but they played internally, and they put the pressure on those linebackers with their tight ends. And so the multitude of ways in which you can attack someone, the ability to go into a game and go, last week we were 4 wides because the defense dictated that. This week, hey, we're going to go 2 tights most of the time and have those game changers at those positions. It just makes you so tough to stop. And a defense always on their heels trying to figure, okay, what are they going to do this week? We saw this, and then we saw that. And I think Coach Reed's always done that. He's always comes into games with certain packages that you've never seen before, different formations or movements. And so every week you're always thinking, okay, what's it going to be this week? We can prepare all we want for what he's done the last 3 weeks. It's going to be different. So if you can add those pieces, now it gives you that flexibility to truly go into games and go, okay, we can pick our poison. How do we want to beat a team, or where do we think we got the best matchups this week?
And of course, the guy getting the ball is Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in football right now. You just interviewed him and you asked him, what's the next step in your game? But in your opinion, as a former quarterback, what's the next step for Patrick Mahomes as he keeps progressing as a pro in this league?
Well, the amazing thing is you can look at Patrick, and we all do as fans, and we're like, man, this guy can't get much better because he makes so many plays. But to me, always the next progression is to be more consistent. And that's, I think, the thing with Patrick as well, is that sometimes you'll see his feet get away from him because he's so used to making these throws where he's jumping or he doesn't need his feet. Sometimes you'll see him try to do too much instead of just playing the game the way he can play. Oh, that guy's open. Get your timing, get the ball out, and just make the routine play. But sometimes you can get into that mode when either you've had to or you've done it so many times that you get a little bit away from some of those just basic technique things. And that, to me, is really where, I mean, Patrick's got all the special that you could possibly want. Now bring the mundane, bring the basic, bring that every time, where you only have to be special a handful of times in a game. And I don't know how you stop him. I don't know, I mean, the sky's the limit if you do that. And so I guess that's the good thing, is he's young, he's accomplished a lot, and we're never going to say you're perfect. And so you just listening to him talk, it's one of the fun things, is that you love to have young guys that have done as much as he's done that are continually saying, I'm watching film, I'm wanting to learn, I'm watching other guys. How can I apply different things? How can I get better? And that's the exciting part, because you guys know, you guys got another decade plus. I mean, a decade is being on the minimum side. You got more than a decade with this young man. And so it's going to be fun with a work ethic like that to see how good he can really be.
I'm just glad he's on our side. I can't imagine going against him every single Sunday. Now, camp is about getting better for guys like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, but it's also about underdogs. And you're the ultimate underdog story. What's your message to the guys in the bubble of this roster trying to make this team?
Well, the beautiful thing is that there's a lot of different ways to get here. And that's usually my message when I talk to a lot of different guys, is that we grow up thinking there's only one way. I got to do this, and I got to go to this college, and got to play this long, and I got to get drafted, and that's the only way to make it. I think every year we see guys that are those underdogs, those guys that didn't play at the school that everybody wanted them to play at, or didn't get drafted as high as they wanted to, or come in and people go, I don't really know who he is. He doesn't have much of a chance. There's always opportunities out there. And being in camp is really the first step, because when you come here now, it's about just grab somebody's attention. Just show them that you can play, because nobody's on this field that can't play football. You don't get to this point without playing. Just don't let those circumstances and the things not playing out exactly like you want dictate whether you believe you can make it. And that, to me, is what being an underdog is all about, because most of us come from that. Very few of us are drafted #1 overall, win a Heisman, have a great career, and go to the Hall of Fame. Most guys have those moments where they are the underdog, and they're coming in having to prove something. And that's why every year I love coming to training camp and seeing guys and pulling for guys that don't go the conventional route, because that's what I think speaks to the masses, and that's what allows us all to say, hey, anything is possible. I'm not going to limit myself by the circumstances I find myself in.
Well, we just heard Coach Bieniemy talk about every single day these guys are coming out here interviewing for a job, no matter if you're a first-round pick or an undrafted free agent. We see it every single year, and you're a great example of that. Last question for you. I understand you have a movie coming out in December. Tell us about that.
I'm excited about it. It's funny. We talk about this underdog. It's called American Underdog. And for so long early in my career, I remember just kind of looking up to God and going, God, why me? Why do I have to be the one on the bench? And why do I have to be the one cut? Or why do I have to work in a grocery store? And it's amazing now you fast forward 20 years from that, and you have a movie made about your life, and you kind of look back and you go, God, why me? Why did you choose me to have this unique, one-of-a-kind journey? And that's what the movie is all about. It's an inspirational, encouraging movie, which I think we need as a country at this time with all the struggles that we've seen over the last 12 months. But it's a number of different underdog stories coming together to really give people that hope, to say, okay, I'm not where I want to be now. I may not even know how I found myself here, but this is not where I'm going to end up. The possibilities are endless, and that's what we want people to take from the movie, to walk out of there and go, okay, I will no longer allow my circumstances to define me. I've got a goal, I've got a dream, and I just got to keep shooting for it.
Yeah, well, you're certainly an inspiration, man, and you hope that the greatest quarterbacks ever are good guys, too. It's a pretty good guy right here, Kurt. Really appreciate your time, man.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome stuff from Kurt Warner there. When you have a chance to talk to a Pro Football Hall of Famer, you want to do it, and he was just great.
Yeah, great interview there, and great perspective, and a lot of respect that he has for the Kansas City Chiefs for sure. All right, this first padded practice, we have to tell you now, Tyreek Hill went up the hill. So he won't be out here right now. We don't know if he'll come back or not. We'll see. So stay tuned on that. But I do want to get into the running backs here and talk about it, because I always kind of caution fans about taking Chiefs in fantasy leagues, because it's all spread around other than Tyreek or Kelsey. I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2021. I think Clyde is poised for a big season. When you look at his productivity last year, only one of 3 rookies in recent years to have 1,000 all-purpose yards. But let's be honest, 70% of those yards were in the first half of the season. And he fought the injuries at the end of the year. But I think that in talking with Clyde throughout this camp, I think he's ready to go.
Definitely ready to go. And I think he deserves credit for what he did last year. I don't think he gets a lot of credit for it. He did have over 1,000 scrimmage yards last year. And from the beginning of the season to week 15, that's when he got hurt and was out for the rest of the regular season, he had the 4th most scrimmage yards of any rookie in the NFL, behind only Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson, and Justin Jefferson. 10th most scrimmage yards among all running backs, regardless of rookie status. So he did some things last year. You think about his best performances of the season, week 6 versus Buffalo. That game was awesome, wasn't it? Playing football like it was 1930. Had 169 total yards. Week 1 versus Houston, I'll remember his debut, 138 total yards. And week 3 versus Baltimore, kind of a different kind of game for him. Caught a lot of passes in that one, but 134 total yards. The thing that excites me most about him this year is his potential as a pass catcher. He had 55 catches at LSU his senior season. That was an LSU single-season record for a running back. I think of all the great running backs that have gone through LSU. This guy can catch the football, and last year it was tough just because without the preseason, without OTAs, all that stuff, didn't have a chance to really get in the flow, the rhythm of the passing game, but he's mentioned he's working on that this offseason. He wants to be a bigger part of this passing game, and sky really is the limit for Clyde if he becomes more of a receiver in this offense.
Yeah, his longest pass play was only 26 yards, and that was at Miami in the regular season. Now, with the improved offensive line and what we've already seen in the summertime through OTAs and in camps thus far, I think that improved offensive line, and then we talked about the tight ends earlier in the show, all of that helps Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whether it's the run game, the pass game, as you alluded to, or the screen game. I think the screen game is where Clyde could be great. Remember, go back to the early playbooks of Andy Reid in 13, 14, 15, 16. Remember Jamal Charles, who obliterated the Raiders on screens. It was amazing. Screen. But Clyde has that opportunity, and then his instinct and his ability to make plays. You don't have to block him great, because he'll give you some extra yardage, even if not everybody's blocked perfectly.
And that's what they've been working on the last few days in camp, because the offseason program, like OTAs and minicamp, that's largely, those are passing camps for the most part. And I mean like actual passes down the field. The last few days in camp have been run emphasis days, which also include the screen game. And that's not only about the running backs, it's also about getting the offensive line, their communication, their cohesion going on plays like that. And it was in preparation for a day like today. In pads, you can only do so much in shorts, but it's about getting on the same page, learning how to block things together. And we mentioned it in our last live stream. We're both really excited about the athleticism of this offensive line, because if you can get your big guys out in space blocking, Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be a nightmare to defend. So looking for a big season from Clyde for sure.
Yeah, again, 70% of his productivity in the first 6 games of the year, but only the third. And you talked about his 1,000 all-purpose yards. It's only been done twice before by any Chief rookie. Joe Delaney, in that incredible year he had to open up his short NFL career, and Kareem Hunt in what he did in the 2017 season, I should say. All right, let's go into the rest of this group. And we had a great shot by Andrew Feely, who's doing our shooting a practice here. But the look of together with Clyde, with Darrell Williams. All right, that's not only now. You could paintbrush. You could do and go back and look at LSU, because these two guys are now reunited, and it has to help both of them. The fact that really the big brother for Clyde Edwards-Helaire is Darrell Williams. He established himself before CEH got here, but now those two together provide a great duo.
It's a cool deal. Just because Clyde was the first-round pick and Darrell was a UDFA several years ago doesn't mean that Darrell wasn't the big dog at LSU when Clyde first got there. And Darrell was the guy at LSU, and he took Clyde under his wing, showed him how to play football. Darrell went to the NFL with the Chiefs, and then Clyde became what he became. But Darrell is a great story, and he kind of gets back to our thesis about camp as a whole. If you can go out here and play, it doesn't matter if you were a first-round draft pick or a UDFA, exactly what we were talking about with Kurt Warner. If you can play, and you will stick in this league. And one of my favorite things about Darrell is that this team trusts him. You can't just look at the box score and the stats to see what he does. And I have a fairly obscure stat to illustrate this. Bear with me. But to show how much the Chiefs trust Darrell Williams, he was relied upon 4 times last year on 4th and less than 2 yards. So 4th down and less than 2 yards. He had the ball in his hands 4 times, 3 carries, 1 catch. He converted every single time, racked up 45 yards from scrimmage, second most of any player in the NFL in that situation, and scored a touchdown. And I think about when Patrick Mahomes got hurt against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it was devastating. We don't know what's going to happen. What do? It was 4th down. People forget about that. They go to Darrell Williams to convert that 4th down. That's no gimme. If the Browns stop the Chiefs there, they have all the momentum in the world in a divisional playoff game. They go to Darrell Williams, and he's trusted in the scheme by the coaches. He can make plays, and he's a great guy. And you just know that he's a perfect kind of guy for this running back room.
He might be exhibit A of the example of he's better in pads. This guy's not going to win the 4x100-meter relay gold medal. He's better in pads. He plays football fast. Keep in mind, he has had big plays. He had the 52-yarder against Houston on a pass play when the Chiefs were backed up a couple years ago in 2019. He also had the 41-yard play against the Baltimore Ravens. And do not forget, to close out the Ravens game in 19, the screen pass. The Chiefs, if they don't get the first down, they might have an issue. They get a screen pass, and who do they call upon? To your point, they trust Darrell Williams. 14-yard screen, game, set, and match. Darrell Williams is way more important to this team than people realize.
Absolutely, and once again, they trust him. That's what it boils down to. Do they trust players in certain situations? And Darrell Williams, doesn't matter that you're not a first-round pick or a second-round pick or whatever, or a highly recruited guy. You can play in this league, and you can execute your assignments. And time again, that guy always comes through. We see it. You mentioned that Baltimore Ravens play. We always remember that game for the 4th and 8 completion to Tyreek Hill. And that was amazing. One of my favorite plays in Chiefs history. But the Darrell Williams play helps make all that reality. So Darrell Williams is trusted in this offense. He's trusted by this coaching staff. He's a big part of this team moving forward.
And he's 5'11", 224. of the running back room now. He's got the girth. Remember when Damian Williams was here, that's another 5'11", 224 guy. He's gone. It leads us into our next player, but just know this, that Darrell Williams is vital to this team. And the other thing I'll close out on Darrell Williams, he has the same one Thornhill chip on his shoulder. He missed the run to the Super Bowl. Darrell got hurt that year in December and missed the playoff run to get to Super Bowl 54. All right, next on the list is someone you do need to get acquainted with. And your 10-year-old will tell you, your 10-year-old daughter will go, that's Derrick McKinnon, Mom. That's the one that was with so good early in his career with Minnesota and Arizona and San Francisco, and he was hurt. Derrick McKinnon's a Chief now. And we were both excited about what he could mean to this team.
Derrick McKinnon was a stud only a few years ago. If you look at his numbers, super dynamic weapon when healthy, just some tough luck during his career. So from 2014 to 2017 with the Minnesota Vikings, he racked up 3,000 yards from scrimmage and 12 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? In 2017 alone, he caught 51 passes and finished just shy of 1,000 scrimmage yards for the year. Earned himself a big contract with the 49ers, deservingly so. He was a big fantasy pick for a lot of people, but unfortunately for him, just got hurt, and he was out for basically all of 2018, all of 2019. But he came back last year and bounced back in a big way, had 600 yards from scrimmage, and still only 28 years old. Get him in this offense. Think of what Andy Reid can do with a player like Derrick McKinnon, because as the stats illustrate, not just a running back, also a receiver. He can line up out wide. You can throw him screens. He's shifty and fast. He can do a lot of different things and complements what Clyde and Darrell can do really well. So very excited for Derrick McKinnon in this offense. I think he's the perfect back for Andy Reid.
So, in case your 10-year-old daughter didn't tell you, he's wearing number 1, and he's a benefactor of the new NFL rule where you can wear number 1 now as a running back. That's opened up 1 through 49 for running backs. So, Derrick McKinnon wears number 1 for this team. But this role of that third back, so to speak, just think Sharkandrick West, think Damian Williams, you think of Darwin Thompson. We're going to get to him in a second. But that role is super important in the Andy Reid system. And now you have a guy with veteran experience, 18 total touchdowns in his career and big plays. He's got a 68-yard play and a 58-yard touchdown run to his credit.
And I'm just imagining third and whatever, Patrick Mahomes in the shotgun. You get Derrick McKinnon right next to him in the shotgun. The possibilities are endless. I mean, he can run a route out of the running back position. He can split out wide. He can do all different kinds of things for you. Even on a draw, he could pick up a first down. So Derrick McKinnon's the kind of guy that the signing probably goes under the radar, but could make a big dividends for this team later on.
And again, what you're seeing here is kind of a condensed version. Before it was a one-on-one play or kind of a split 7-on-7. But you saw Derrick McKinnon and his role there and what he could mean to this team. But again, an asset for the football team. That leads us into Darwin Thompson, who's had that role of Derrick McKinnon really the last year for sure in 2020. But 2019, before he opted out, it was Damian Williams. But Darwin Thompson, think about his fumble recovery against Houston and that great comeback in the divisional playoff game in 2019. Darwin Thompson, you talk about the dodgeball underdog story. That's this guy. He's had to do it every level of his career.
Yeah, and he's proven it every single level of his career. The guy is the strongest human I've ever been around. We shake a lot of these players' hands, right? Especially before COVID. Darwin Thompson had the firmest handshake I've ever shaken in my life. It was unbelievable. The guy is built. And really, we talk about making the most of opportunities, and we saw it in Week 17 of last year. He finally got his chance to be the lead back on this offense in Week 17 against the LA Chargers and played really well. 21 touches, 14 rushes, 7 catches, 110 total yards from scrimmage, and 2 touchdowns. Football is all about making the most of your opportunity. And Darwin hasn't had a ton of opportunities to show what he could do in terms of volume in certain situations, but Week 17, he finally had his chance and really impressed.
He's had to do it at Tulsa in high school. He was under-recruited, went to NEO A&M, an outstanding junior college in the Chiefs Kingdom in Miami, Oklahoma. Under-recruited, only got MAC offers. Utah State said, let's give it a shot. He went to Utah State, was very productive. Underappreciated, and the Chiefs were able to select him, get him into camp. Here he is again, because he's fighting for a spot. Let's be honest. Derrick McKinnon showing up makes that third running back position a very keen competition, and Darwin's missed some time in camp. So here he is again, D-Train again, which he spent the last 10 to 12 years of his life trying to prove himself.
Well, competition breeds growth. That's what we talk about with this team. When you have a really good team like the Chiefs, there's always going to be competition and good players trying to compete for only a finite number of spots. You see what the Chiefs have done the past couple years, and we'll keep going through our running back backs here as we go, but just some context, the Chiefs kept 4 running backs, including a fullback, last year for week 1. In 2019, they kept 5 total running backs, also including a fullback. So when you're thinking about the players that can make this team, that's what they've done in the past. Of course, if you keep less running backs, that means you can keep maybe an extra wide receiver or an extra tight end. We'll see how things all play out, but that's how it's been over the course of the last couple years.
All right, there's Elijah McGuire, who's been a veteran. There's Derrick Gore, young guy that was signed, played with Doug Peterson's son at Louisiana Monroe, and then Michael Burton, who is the new sausage. He's bounced around the league as well last year with New Orleans, but he is the new sausage. Remember, Anthony Sherman retired. Michael Burton is the lone fullback on this team. Now what we're going to transition to on the field is the one-on-one play, again, in pads for the first time, and that's wide receivers versus defensive backs isolated in one-on-one. And again, who can run in pads is key here, and who can be precise in routes. This is a precision drill for the quarterbacks and the receivers used here, including the tight ends, but it's also the precision of the defensive backs. Can they get, if they're playing in press coverage, can they get the punch they need to draw the receiver off their timing? And then how are they after the receiver makes its break? It's awesome to watch because it's mano-a-mano.
And this was so much fun about the first day of pads, is, as I mentioned, look at that. Ooh.
McCole Hardman, that's a big-time play because the coverage was from Snead, and it was actually pretty good.
What's I'm talking about? Those kind of plays are what you want to see in this camp because, as I mentioned at the top of our show, we have not seen these guys in pads. These guys have not practiced in pads since Super Bowl 55. This is their first chance to do it and go mano-a-mano, like you said. And, man, can you find a better matchup than McCole Hardman and L'Jarius Snead in this league?
And what you always like is an offense wins, defense wins. You don't want to see one side dominate all the time. Rashad Fenton backed up the play on defense with an interception right after the great catch by McCole Hardman against Snead one-on-one.
What's the tricky part is we're rooting for the entire team. And we want to see, I mean, just human nature, you want to see offense. You want to see big touchdowns and plays like that. But you want to see the defense win as well.
A reminder, save the date for Red Friday. It's September 10th. It's one of the red letter dates, no pun intended, on the calendar every year. This year's collectible flags are just $5 at KC area McDonald's locations or $10 at shopchiefs.com, shop.chiefs.com. And as always, the net proceeds support the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Kansas City. Visit chiefs.com/Red Friday for all the details. You do not want to miss it. It is a kingdom-wide pep rally on that first Friday before the opening game of the year this year against the Cleveland Browns. But again, the first day in pads, you mentioned it's the first of 4. In many ways, this is the most important part of training camp.
Well, it's just getting back into a swing of things. And it's how can your body respond to this? What's really important is how will these guys be feeling 3 days from now when they're doing this over and over and over again. But it's about just getting back into the swing of things. The last week and a half of camp has been a ramp-up period. It's all mental. It's figuring out muscle memory and getting a base knowledge for everything. And really, that's been the goal throughout the entire offseason program of OTAs and minicamp. And once again, it all leads to this moment. Can you take everything that you've learned for the new players on this team, the new concepts for the players that have been here before? Can you take everything that you've learned and apply it out here on the football field with pads on? Luckily, it's not very hot today. Imagine if it was pads last week, but you want to ease into this process, get the pads on, play some football again, and just get, once again, back into the swing of things.
We'll be back with you with another live stream 1 week from today, and we'll update you with what's happened, but then also kind of set the stage because that'll be the Tuesday before the first preseason game against San Francisco. Just because we're signing off now on this live stream does not mean you have to quit following the team. In fact, your headquarters for everything Chiefs, 24/7, every breath of your life, is Chiefs.com. We have weekly photo galleries. You're going to all of our 65 TPT video content. We talked about the franchise and our other features. Articles from Matt McMullen, a terrific follow. I kid about him being the human flash drive, but yeah, he's willing to find your USB port, and then there's so much more. But you can stay with us, even though we're signing off now, every moment of every day with your favorite football team. Here we are, first day in pads. It's exciting because, yes, we're taking a turn here. We're getting that much closer to first preseason game and working through camp.
Let me plug this really fast. When you come out to camp, you need to carry something. These awesome Chiefs backpacks. You can get these at shop.chiefs.com. Search backpacks. Proceeds benefit buying bags for students in Kansas City. It's an awesome, awesome cause. It's an awesome backpack. You can show your Chiefs pride while also helping kids that really need it here in Kansas City. But Mitch, once again, so much fun out here. First day of pads. We're seeing what this team can do, getting ready for hopefully another Super Bowl caliber year. And we're seeing the energy out here. The guys are excited. It's been a lot of fun just watching this practice. And stick with us over the next several weeks. This is where you're laying the foundation, getting ready for the 2021 season. The guys look ready, and they're getting ready for what hopefully is a Super Bowl championship year.
That backpack, a necessity for back to school. A necessity, make sure you have more information than your 10-year-old son or daughter, because they're going to slap you on the shoulder and go, come on, Mom and Dad. Thanks for joining us this morning, and stay with us all throughout training camp. He's Matt McMullen. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs. Thanks to our entire TPT, 65 TPT crew that makes these live streams go. And stay with us, folks, as your favorite football team gets ready to attack the 2021 season.
Starts right here, baby.
Who work as hard as us? Nobody.